Okay, ready? All right, we'll call this meeting to order. Please rise for the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, good evening, everyone. First item on the agenda tonight is to recognize the retirement of our longtime township land planner, Evan Riker. Bill?
So everyone, we all know Van, and Van's been with Horsham Township for 30 years as the land planner, has seen us through many changes in Horsham, has seen every plan, land development plan and zoning change that has come our way over 30 years, has had influence and commented on many changes to our subdivision and land development ordinance as well as our zoning ordinance. And comprehensive plans, one or two at least, park and open space plans, our master site plan for the office park, you name it. Van has seen everything that has hit Horsham Township in 30 years and has seen a lot of change over those 30 years, from cornfields to homes and a lot of new people in Horsham. So Van gets to go on to the next phase of retirement, and we wish him a very happy, long, healthy retirement. He's spent a lot of late nights here in this, at this location. We've changed buildings a few times, but he's seen a lot and has worked very hard, and we really appreciate all that you've done for Horsham, Van, over the 30 years. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Bob. Thanks.
Thank you.
And good luck with it.
Before you go, Van, we have a little proclamation for you. I want to read it to you real quick. It says, in 1993, Township Council appointed Van Riker as the township's land planner. Since then, he has been involved in every land development application and all revisions and amendments to our subdivision and land development ordinance and zoning ordinance. Mr. Riker has worked very closely with elected officials, municipal staff, the township engineer, and project architects to provide services reflective of the needs of the Horsham Township community. He has remained committed to sound design, innovative thought, and environmental integrity throughout his time in Horsham Township. Evan Riker, for his 30 years of planning services to Horsham Township, has become a valued member of the Horsham Township community, and we extend our well wishes to Mr. Riker on his upcoming retirement. It's always tough to lose the good ones, buddy, but you've done a hell of a job for us, and we're sorry to see you go, but also happy for you as well. We wish you the best.
Thank you very much. It's always been a team effort in Horsham. Horsham has always been known as the municipality that had a consultant, lighting, landscape, environmental, zoning, civil, sewer, EAP, whatever it was required to process this very busy and hectic schedule. The Township Council was always ready for it, and I'm grateful, and I'm sure most of the township is as well. Thank you.
Yeah, don't go anywhere, Van.
anywhere.
Van, hold on. Just sit down. After the next agenda item, we're going to get pictures.
I wants to run out. It's like, oh, I'm out.
He's gone. All I see is red brake lights at the exit driveway.
Okay, so next is a check presentation to the St. Vincent de Paul Food Pantry from the proceeds of our 5th annual Carpenter Cross Bike Race.
I'm going to pass this to Mr. Haggerty.
This year was our 5th annual Carpenter Cross race that's held right over here in Deep Meadow Park. And typically I say that I'm in charge of the weather every year, and because every year it's been beautiful. Not so much this year. This year is when we had the tropical storm come through and it downpoured all day long. So it made for a tough race. It made great spectating. You really couldn't tell the difference between the day with all the spectators that we had there. There was a little dip in our numbers as far as participation from the riders, but I didn't mind it because it was kind of nice to have a mudder once every 5 years. That's fine with me. But, cyclocross is supposed to be in foul weather, so it was fine. The volunteers really stepped up this year, especially, in the weather that we had, that were out there throughout the day in the pouring rain. And we even had a local company in town, BioCoat, that kind of had like a work release program with us and helped us set up the course, so that was really beneficial. All in all, it was really a great day. Because it was the 5th year, we decided to run the course backwards, which, we're pretty much known for our course and what a great layout we have, and people still raved about it, so I was pretty happy with that. But it was a very great day, and we're happy that we were able to still, give proceeds to St. Vincent de Paul as long as with our Parks and Rec department. So looking forward to next year and just going to keep it going, and next year we can have fair weather again.
Awesome. Thank you. Who are we presenting this to, Bill?
St. Vincent de Paul, so we have Patty and Steve from St. Vincent de Paul here with us this evening. If you guys want to maybe just tell over there at the mic, and maybe tell everyone a little bit about St. Vincent de Paul and what you do.
So St. Vincent de Paul Food Pantry is held at St. Catherine's Church, 321 Whitmer Road. We're open every Saturday from 10 to 12, and we help up to 100 families each week with food, milk or eggs, and other donations that we get from Giant, such as bread and meat and other various items. So this would help us, help feed people, and we also help people financially.
Good. All right. So we're just happy to present this check to you guys for the wonderful job that you do. And a lot of people in this community and elsewhere benefit from the work that you and all your volunteers do. So we can't thank you enough, but we can give you some money.
And the next event that goes that we do for St. Vincent de Paul is the Freezer 5K in December. So everyone, please help spread the word. That is December
10th.
Yeah.
Thank you, Patty.
December 9th is Pack the Patrol Car with the Horsham Police.
And Pack the Patrol Car, yeah. So we have 2 events coming
Yeah,
up.
that's
So
our big event of the year.
So we usually do 20 plus police cars out from Giant. So help everyone in the audience spread the word, and both events go towards St. Vincent de Paul and feed a lot of needy families during the holidays. So thank you. Since they're standing, we can have them come up. And behind you, Mark, is the big check.
Excellent. All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, guys. Thanks. Thanks. Thank you.
I'm just seeing you.
Very helpful.
Thanks. Thanks, Mark. Thank you.
All right. Next is just an announcement. Bill, do you want to make that about Moody's?
Sure. Each year, we get reviewed by Moody's. It's a very in-depth, detailed look into our finances as a township. And I'm glad to report that this year, once again, Horsham Township has been assigned a AA1 rating from Moody's, which is second to the highest. The highest is AAA. And the only reason why we are not AAA is because of the former Willow Grove Navy base. That is over 8% of our land in our township. And as it sits there vacant while we wait for it to be cleaned up and developed, that's the reason Moody's gives us. Otherwise, we would have the highest bond rating, credit rating, if the base was under redevelopment. So that day will come. As you know, that is being cleaned up. But right now, we are doing very good with our finances as a township.
Good. Well done. Next opportunity, questions, comments? Anyone? Yes, sir. I knew you were going to stand up. Up to the microphone, name and address for the records, if you don't mind.
I'm Andy Starr. Can I raise this a little bit here? There we go. Andy Starr, 926 Langdon Avenue, Horsham, PA. And I'm here for 2 quick reasons tonight, and I'm going to set the tone if I could. I've been a resident of Horsham for 24 years, and we love living here. My family loves living here. We've made this our home. We have no intentions of ever going anywhere. We love it. But I will tell you that I read Bill's address or his budget address for the township. And Bill, you have a very hard position. I would not want to be in your shoes. You're not going to make anybody happy doing what you're doing with that. And I do truly believe that you're sincere with being conservative with your budget. And I know this for a fact. But the one thing I've had on my mind that I wanted to speak about before I get into the main reason why I'm here is even though that we're trying to approach budgeting on a conservative basis, it just absolutely irks me that we as a community have torn down numerous township buildings and rebuilt those. Most people don't do that, especially those that are trying to be conservative with their budgeting and the fact that there is not money just flowing in all the time. And even though we're discussing that now, how come we weren't discussing that when we decided to tear down buildings? So when we talk about being conservative, those type of actions smack in the face of everybody that tries to be conservative with their budgets. So that's something that's been on my chest. I wanted to get it off my chest. But the real reason why I'm here tonight is about voting. And this whole entire voting thing, and just reading in the patch today that they still haven't figured out who is going to win the township seat for you, Mark. It's absolutely ludicrous. It's ridiculous. And quite frankly, I don't know about you, but I'm tired of this whole voting scenario. Now, I approached this council a couple years ago about the voting situation. And it was the machines, and of course we have mail-in voting. It's a huge, huge issue. Allow me, I have a couple quick things I just want to present if I could. The first one is, and this is a brand new Rasmussen poll. I don't know if anybody's seen it yet. Election integrity, 56% cheating is likely in 2024. And what's really interesting about that poll, if I may, finds that 56% of likely U.S. voters believe cheating likely to affect the outcome of the next presidential election. I'm not even worried about the presidential election. I'm worried about here in Horsham Township. How about Montgomery County? How about the state of Pennsylvania? Those are huge issues. This is a huge poll, and I'm going to get to a couple other things really quickly, too. And this includes 31% who think it's very likely that this cheating will happen. Now, of course, 37% say election cheating is unlikely to affect the 2024 outcome, including 16% who consider it not likely at all. So that's huge. I mean, ultimately, when it comes to voting, that's all we have. This is how it works. And if you don't have a secure election system, then you have nothing. Now, I'm going to ask the Township Council a quick question. What is the acceptable miscount? The acceptable miscount according to the Federal Election Commission. Does anybody know? Mary? Okay. It's a 1 in 500,000 miscounts are allowed according to the federal law. That's 1.5 million. So that means here in Horsham Township, there should be 0 miscounts. As a matter of fact, this whole entire area, should be 0 miscounts. Now, when we start talking about voting machines, and mail-in votes, that's a whole nother thing. That's already a mess via our Pennsylvania Supreme Court, our activist judges in the Supreme Court. But here, the voting machines, okay, go through a process of counting your vote. So when you stand up and you put that vote in your voting machine, and it says to you, your vote has been counted, that voting machine has probably lied to you, and I'm going to tell you why. There's a process known as adjudication. That voting machine does not read every vote that you put in there. It can't, and it doesn't. As a matter of fact, there are some reports out there stating there's up to 68% of the votes that go into those machines go to adjudication. Adjudication, of course, is someone else hand counts that vote. So if these machines are supposed to count the vote, and when you walk away from it and it says your vote has been counted, that's a lie. And therefore, if one of those votes isn't counted, and it doesn't even tell you that it hasn't been counted, that means it does not fit within a law as prescribed by the Federal Election Commission. These voting machines are illegal based on that premise, as far as I'm concerned. But you know what? That's federal. So here in Pennsylvania, if you're paying attention, was it Northampton County? They had a huge issue in 2019 with voting, with votes being swapped, and it happened again. So voting machines down in several districts in Pennsylvania due to votes getting flipped. What that did, much like the reason I'm standing up here today, is Pennsylvania voters reach peak of mistrust after voting machines glitched for a second time in Northampton County. I was at peak 4 years ago. So the reason I stand today is because it was advised that I petition Montgomery County to talk about the voting machines. The problem is I'm one person. And back then, I don't think that the kitchen table topic of voter fraud was as prevalent as today. And I dare anybody in this room to say that they haven't talked about voter fraud in the past year, 2 years. And so I'm here to ask, short of demand, that we as a community, specifically you as a township council, petition Montgomery County to say we need to get out of voting machines. And I can find out via FOIA, if you'd like, what the percentage of adjudicated votes were here in Horsham Township, and I'll even do it from Montgomery County. And if it's more than one, we have been hosed. We have been taken advantage of. We have been lied to. And we have now, as far as voting is concerned, been disenfranchised. Because if the voting system is not correct, my vote doesn't count. Your vote doesn't count. No one's vote counts. And therefore, we no longer have a republic where we are in charge of our government. We now have people that run the show and are dictators. And I'm not going to live as a dictator. I promise you that right now. So that being said, I think I'm going to take Bill's hand here, and I'm going to finish up with a quote from Benjamin Franklin. Okay, since you used that in the end of your request for budget. And here's how it goes. He says, it is the first responsibility of every citizen to question authority. And I'm questioning authority. And I'm tired of being lied to. I'm tired of our voting system being a total disaster. We are probably the most technology advanced country in the whole entire world in civilization, and we can't count votes. It's awful. I appreciate your time tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Andy. Okay, anybody else? Okay. Next is approval of the list of checks.
Just real quick for the list of checks, Mr. President. So we've been doing the Hurricane Ida Relief Fund, properties that were damaged by the flood and the tornado. In tonight's checklist, there's 3 more properties to a total of $6,475. So after those 3 properties, we have given out $428,896.97 to 149 property owners whose properties were damaged by the tornado and flood from Hurricane Ida.
Very good. And does that end it, or is it still going?
This goes till we have about $90,000 left in the funds, and it'll go till next June.
Okay. All right, thanks, Bill. Next is an update on the, oh, I'm sorry, we need a motion.
I move to approve the list of checks and all funds in the amount of $662,097.91, and further move to authorize payment of same.
Second. Moved and seconded, all in favor? Aye. Aye. I got one phone vote. My daughter says. Catch you later. Sorry about that, folks. All right, next is, it says moved and second, all in favor was aye, was it? And all right, and ayes have it. So the transportation update by Montgomery County Planning Commission.
So this is your annual transportation update. As council knows, the township works very hard at transportation in the town, and each year Matt Edmond from the Montgomery County Planning Commission comes, as well as Eric Ferrari, our transportation consultant, as well as Eric Garten, our transportation engineer, to provide you an update on the projects occurring in council and what's in the pipeline.
All right. Thank you, Council. Thank you for having me here again this year. I appreciate having you as an audience and being able to speak to you about some of the bigger picture transportation issues that are running here in our region, in our county, and how they affect Horsham. So, Bill, before I begin, is there a clicker that I should have, or is someone doing it remotely?
That's me. Just
all right.
Give me the
so
signal.
I will, do you want hand signal? Or, all right, we'll figure something out here. All right, well, let's start by going to the next slide. And I'm going to stand as far outside of everyone's view as I can. I'll do my best. So I'm going to talk about, again, big picture things. And there's 2 issues that I just want to bring to your attention here this November, this year. One is the Eastern Monco Interchanges Group. I'll get into that in a second. And then the other is the IIJA, or the BIL, the Bipartisan Infrastructure Law, passed 2 years ago, which injected about $1.2 trillion into the national economy for various types of infrastructure, particularly roads and bridges and transportation. So next slide. All right, so quick refresher. What is the Eastern Monco Interchanges Group? This is a group that's been meeting for about a year and a half. It's comprised of Montgomery County and 3 of our townships here in the eastern part, Horsham, obviously, you see your logo up there, Upper Moreland, and Upper Dublin, 2 of your neighbors. And these are the 3 municipalities who, along with the county, are pooling some financial resources together to work on advancing the interchanges here in this territory that came out of a study that we had done with you guys and the other townships as partners about 10 years ago to try to get the turnpike to build and improve a couple of nearby interchanges. So, it's the 3 municipalities of the county. We also have our state and federal elected officials and their staffs will show up to these things. Abington and Hatboro, other neighbors will be part of it. But only those 3 municipalities are going to see the benefits that come from the financial contribution. So I'm going to give you guys a quick update of where we are. Even though we've been meeting, next slide, Bill, for about the last year and a half, sharing information, talking, strategizing, we now have a consultant on board. That's what we're using this money for. It's Bull Smythe. We looked at a couple of different consultants, and everyone pretty much felt that they had the best proposal. They work extensively in Upper Dublin, and so they have a lot of knowledge about this area here. We'll call it the 3 points on Welsh and Blair Mill, where Upper Dublin and Upper Moreland and Horsham all kind of meet. That's where the future Welsh Road interchange would probably go. To the south of that is the Virginia Drive interchange, which is partial. And then, of course, the north of that is Willow Grove. Those are the 3 interchanges that this group is working with each other and with the turnpike to try to create. So this is what Bull Smythe is going to be doing now. They've hit the ground running. They've started. They have notice to proceed. They're already scheduling meetings with every municipality, and actually we'll be meeting with Bill and his staff here in a couple of weeks, but also meeting with the turnpike, meeting with PennDOT to start to lay the groundwork, hopefully someday, perhaps, to get them to make major contributions to making this stuff happen. This is the big thing, they're going to put together what they call the playbook, which is an inventory of all of the local road projects surrounding those future interchanges that'll help make those interchanges work someday. That's the one thing that the 3 townships in the county can control through different ways, different mechanisms. So they're going to assemble all these, order them in sort of a timeline, and over the long term, help the 3 municipalities in the county actually chase down grants and find other ways to fund these things so that we can show progress year in and year out while we're also simultaneously working with the turnpike on the interchanges themselves. And a lot of that also equals updating the analysis that underpins this design of the interchange concepts. So they're going to be doing a lot of technical analysis. That's their goal, and that's what we need in order to effectively work with our partners and work together. So that's just a quick rundown, just letting you know that it's happening, that we're happy the township is partnering with us and the other municipalities, and our goal and our aim is to show you guys progress every year. Bill? Over to the IIJA. Remember that was passed 2 years ago by Congress and signed into law by President Biden. And just a quick recap, injected a whole bunch of money every year into our transportation funding system. So the tune of almost $200 million a year for roads and bridges, about $100 million a year to SEPTA, and then there's all these competitive grant programs. And this is the thing that I'm going to launch into in a moment. It's that lower left, $1.2 trillion, right? But you can't think of it as just one big nut, because a lot of that money, half of it goes towards discretionary programs, and then half of it goes to formula. So the formula is basically the stuff in the upper right. How much does our region, as the 5th largest region in America, how much do we get back just by a funding formula? That's important. But also that discretionary. Remember, there's a lot of money and hundreds of grant programs, but not all of them are applicable to our region. Not even fewer of them are applicable to Horsham Township. So you have to really take a very precision approach to figuring out what is applicable to Horsham from this discretionary piece of the IIJA. So Bill, next slide. So that's the big question, right? That's why I'm here. That's why you're listening to me, is how can Horsham benefit from the IIJA? So there's 2 ways in which we're going to show that. Bill, if you go to the next slide. So there's a couple of programs that generally our region is eligible for that will actually make an impact. And last year I put some version of the slide up with those 4. But I'm only going to highlight one, and that's the Safe Streets for All, because the NEVI, the electric vehicle charging stations, PennDOT is prioritizing that, and guess what? The 611 corridor is not one of those corridors. So there's not much that you're going to see, at least yet, from NEVI, although that could change in the future. And then the other 2 are various things that you might kind of see here, but really it's the Safe Streets for All that I just want to highlight, because DVRPC, which is our region's planning organization, they got a big $1.4 million grant from this program to do what's called a Regional Safety Action Plan. I'm going to throw some terms out, right, and I'll try to explain them. And the whole point of a regional safety action plan is to come up with a high injury crash network. That's less of a network and more of a series of roads and intersections that have the most crashes, where vehicles hit each other or pedestrians or bicyclists get hit, right? Those are the unsafest places in our region. So more or less, that effort there is going to trickle down to the county government and to all of our municipal governments, where we are going to work with you, we're going to work with DVRPC, and we're going to share information, collect information, discuss possibilities, discuss possible projects, and at the end, this high injury crash network is going to lay out almost like a plan would, with dots and lines, and say these are the projects that now have been planned for, and that would enable either PennDOT or the county or most likely even Horsham to be able to go after grants from that same program to implement those improvements to make our roads safer. So we're going to be working with you guys in the coming months. We'll be touching base with Bill, I'm sure, at some point. But that's one that I think you might see discretionary money flow back to Horsham in the next couple of years. Next slide, Bill. And then finally on the formula side, right, this is the tip. The formula money all goes to the state. State sends it down to the regions, and then we build our tip around what we get in formula funding. And so I just want everyone here on council to know that one of our jobs is to look at our comprehensive plan at the county level and work with our municipalities. And when the opportunity arises to submit projects for possible inclusion into the next tip. And we update the tip every 2 years, and we're in that process, right in the middle of it right now. And so we have put together a short list that includes a couple of projects, and 3 of those are actually here on the edges of Horsham, right? And so you can see on the map, you guys know Horsham's at Blair Mill and Welsh Road there. You're on the upper left side of that map. And those lines, for the most part, are on or around your borders. But, transportation is porous, right? What happens in Upper Moreland affects Horsham. What happens in Horsham affects Upper Dublin. And so it goes, right? Nobody drives around and hits a wall and can't go any further. They drive on the same roads that go through all of our communities. So those are the 3 projects that we have submitted for consideration to be added to the tip. The Willow Grove Interchange, a bigger one than what Upper Moreland is pursuing at the moment. 2 bridges there on Welsh Road over the Turnpike in Norfolk Southern, which are undersized and not in the best shape. And then the Cross County Trail, part of the Circuit Trail Network, the region's big trail thing that's meant to get you from one county and one place to another. So we've submitted those for inclusion in the tip, and I have to be honest, I don't know if they're going to get in. It all depends on how much money we have to work with, and then it goes through a rigorous scoring process and negotiation process. So we're hoping to get all of these in, but until they're in, I can't guarantee it, so I just want to put that disclaimer out there. But it's important, though, that we submitted them and that we at the county level believe that Horsham is an important place for transportation investment. So with that, Bill, I'll just go to the last slide. That's my contact information. Happy to follow up, and I'm happy to answer any questions either now or after my colleagues from Gilmore and Michael Baker are done. Thank you.
Any questions? Thank you so much for that. I know you put a lot of effort into this every year for us, so we do appreciate it. Who's next?
Michael Baker.
Baker, you're up.
Follow your lead and go mobile. One, I want to thank you again for having this opportunity to kind of give an update on what's going on in Horsham Township. So, Matt covered what's going on regionally and through the county. So we're going to take a little bit more of a closer dive as to what Horsham Township is doing themselves to really improve the infrastructure in the township. So, Bill, if you go to the next slide. So this is just a map of the township, and I'd like to show this because, one, you can see how we're touching pretty much every major roadway in the township, and you guys know most of these roadways is needing some significant improvement. I want to focus on 2 projects in particular that were led by PennDOT. First of all, the County Line Road reconstruction project was just recently completed. They just had the final inspection, so after probably, 15, 20 years, Bill, that project's been going on. It's finally done. And the other project I want to point to is on the bottom is the Maple Glen Triangle, another legacy project that Matt can attest is kind of back on the docket a little bit, so it's got some life, but it's going to be kind of refocused in terms of, rather than widening out the roadways through Maple Glen, really look at it more of a safe streets for all, some pedestrian movements, really use some technology to improve the efficiency of those intersections. So not a blowout, but you're going to see some improvements and really connect the dots between all the other improvements that have been made by land development. So 2 PennDOT-led projects. So we'll jump right into the township-led projects, get into a little bit more detail. The first one is the Blair Mill Road widening, and the significance of this project really goes back to what Matt was talking about with the potential future interchange at Welsh Road. Blair Mill will be a major connector or receiver of traffic off that interchange. So phase 2, as I reported to you last year, has started construction. And anybody who's familiar with roadway construction these days, the first year at least is all about utilities. So PECO's been doing their work and moving their utility poles. So we expect that to be done around December this year. There'll be a quick outage for all the communication lines to move back to the new poles. And once PECO's out of the way, it should clear the way for all the road construction. We do have some water and sewer relocations, working with Horsham Water and Sewer Authority to get that done, and then the roadway construction should start sometime spring of '24, and we'll look at maybe a year or so, depending on how quickly they can crank through the road work. Phase 3 is the next piece of that. So phase 2 is from roughly 611 to Whitmer. Phase 3 would be from Whitmer to Welsh Road, and then a little bit on the opposite side of 611 to kind of finish out that intersection. That just got started this year. We just received a survey and the base mapping from Gilmore recently, so we'll get into the preliminary engineering over the next 6 to 9 months. That will lead the way into what right-of-way acquisition we need to proceed with. Depending on how quickly that goes, we can get into final design and looking to advance to construction the end of '25 thereabouts. So rough timelines, and it all is contingent on right-of-way, as you'll hear, a common theme through these projects. But that will be a major connector with the interchange and what may have within the base. So we're excited to see Blair Mill widen to essentially 5 lanes that entire stretch. Next slide. The other major project that's well underway is the Horsham Road Lincoln Pike widening. As we reported last year, we're still in the right-of-way acquisition phase. 39 impacted property owners, about 45 plus or minus parcels, individual parcels, mostly residential, but we do have some business impacts and some displacements. We have 23 settled to date, or soon to be settled. Another 9 are in negotiations, and we can continually meet with every property owner and trying to get through this process as quickly and as amicably as possible. Once that is done, we can jump right back into the final design, get the plans ready to go, work with the utility companies on that clearance, continue to work with DEP and the State Historic Preservation Office, primarily with the White Marsh Cemetery property, get our permits lined up, and then work through PennDOT to get the HOP issued sometime in the summer or early fall. So we hope to advertise for construction around that time, and you can start to see activity. And then next year into '25, again, mostly starting with utilities. So as we saw with Blair Mill, you're going to see a lot of utility relocations as the beginning part of this construction. Next slide. So a new project that got started this year is the Horsham Road bridge replacement. So this is a advanced project to get ahead of a pinch point in the future long-term widening of Horsham Road, continuing the 5-lane section all the way to Babylon, thereabouts. So this bridge will need to be widened. Right now it's 2+ lanes will need to be widened to the full 5-lane section. So Bill, if you go to the next slide, these are some recent pictures from a recent inspection. If you go to the next slide, Bill, you can see that the bridge was actually built in '87, which in the lifespan of a bridge is not that old. And the condition looks pretty good, but we are looking at a significant widening, going from roughly a 40-foot cartway width to 60 to 65 feet to accommodate the lanes and the sidewalks and shoulders. So we'll have to evaluate whether we do a full replacement or just a widening or extension on either end of the bridge. We're working with Gilmore. They're going to be doing all the hydraulic studies. And if Bill, you go to the next slide. No surprise, this is in a highly regulated FEMA floodplain area, so There will be some coordination with FEMA on what we propose and how it impacts the floodplain, both upstream and downstream. So there's a lot of back and forth on that. And if Bill, you go to the next slide, I'll kind of lay out the sequence of events that get us to where we need to be. So survey and base mapping was just completed by Gilmore. They'll be working with us on some of the hydraulic studies. And then we'll kick off what we call a type, size, and location study. So work with PennDOT on options and alternatives for type and size of bridge, location, hydraulic opening, all those things that kind of drive the final design and ultimately will drive the floodplain impacts. We'll be coordinating with FEMA throughout this process. CLOMAR is what they call a conditional letter of map revision. So we want to avoid that if all possible, Eric, right? So ideally you want to be able to replace the bridge in kind so there is no impact to the regulated floodplain. If there is, we do need to go through FEMA and get a map revision done. And obviously that will impact some permits with DEP and the state as well. Once that's all done, we can get right into some of the geotechnical investigations and the foundation design for the bridge. There is some utility coordination we'll have to do, both there's, I believe, some utilities on the bridge as well as aerial utilities. And then the final bridge plans. And I think the big thing we'll have to look at is how we stage this. There's obviously access to the park. You have emergency services nearby. So it's unlikely a full closure detour would be advisable. So we'll be looking at some kind of half-width type of construction. Certainly be able to maintain 2 lanes of traffic, but it's going to be difficult to manage. We'll have to figure out a best way to build this under traffic. Really looking at hopefully getting all this done in the next couple of years, so construction could start around 2026. Next slide. The last one I'll talk to, and again, this will get started sometime next year, is looking at the 611 corridor. So we recently met with the county and PennDOT to come up with a scope of work that would ultimately check all the boxes in terms of PennDOT's requirements, with the end goal being, as Matt alluded to, getting the project on the tip. So we'll be looking at both recent and local traffic collection in terms of turning movements, but also working with DVRBC on their long-range modeling. So we'll be looking at a 2050 horizon in terms of what kind of traffic we expect to see on 611 in the next 25 years. That will drive opportunities to look at different alternatives as to what 611 could really look like in the future. So everything's going to be on the table. We're going to create a technical and a steering committee to help us come up with some of these alternatives and concepts. I can tell you PennDOT is not a big fan of just widening roadways anymore, so we need to make sure we can accommodate future traffic, but safely. So we'll be looking at different options, just hypothetically like roundabouts and access control along 611. Certainly with the increase in traffic and knowing that roadway safety is going to be a big concern, and we'll be working hand in hand with PennDOT and the county on that. There will be a significant transit and pedestrian assessment, looking at bus routes, thinking about the future of the base and how SEPTA can serve the base, and what 611 can do to accommodate that access and that use, and as well as pedestrians. We certainly want to continue to expand on the township trail system. How can we get the residential neighborhoods to the east of 611, across 611 to access the power line trail? So again, potentially a pedestrian bridge over 611 is a concept to consider, what the trail network would look like. And then also part of this, and I'm not going to call it a study, Bill, because you made it very clear this is not a study. We're actually developing some concept plans. Preliminary looking at some of the crossroads through the base to connect Horsham Road and 611. So all of this is part of this effort. And we're also going to be able to get updated aerial photography. We have a system where we can use a unmanned drone to take pictures as well as collect data in order for base mapping and future use in terms of whether it be concepts or mapping, engineering, whatever the case may be. But that's going to really help us drive the line of grade development, the concept plans. And at the end of the day, we'll have some good concepts, some good cost estimates, some ideas on staging, phasing, look at funding opportunities and how we can pay for the next phase in construction, and really hopefully have an opportunity to get these projects on the tip in some form or fashion, working with the county and PennDOT. I think that's my last slide, right? Good. So I will pause there, and I think Eric has some final comments, and then we'll open up to questions.
I'm going to see the slides for the first time right now, so we'll see what Bill put up there for me to
This
talk
slide.
about.
This slide.
Okay, so certainly not as big a picture as the last two presenters, but as council know, we've been working on the 611 and Moreland Avenue intersection improvement, realigning that intersection, getting it signalized. At your last meeting, you rejected those bids that we had opened because the sewer pricing came in high. We're already back out to bid on that, bids to open soon, so we anticipate having good numbers again and having you guys award at an upcoming council meeting to have construction start next year. Actually, I guess it was Monday last week before the holiday, we met with the school district just to make sure we're coordinating the improvements the township's making as well as the township's authorities making with the school district calendar so that no one's impacted more than they need to be. So that is the top one. There's new signals going into Blair Mill Road. Horsham Gateway Point Shopping Center, that's a private development project. See the developer in the back there shaking his head. Third one, Drescher, Sawmill Lane and New Road. We, over the last year, have done survey and design. We have been going back and forth with PennDOT, getting those approvals. I think we're down to the last little bit there, so we should be going out to bid in 2024 with construction to start shortly thereafter. And then, as council knows, earlier this year, Davis Grove Road Bridge had to be closed down for a few weeks because there was a pretty significant structural issue that we put a temporary fix on to make the bridge safe so you could reopen the road. But our office has been working on the actual full replacement of that bridge. And again, that's close to being done with, again, construction to be anticipated for 2024.
All you got is one slide.
That's all you got.
No pretty pictures either.
All right, anybody have any questions? There's a lot going on in Horsham, huh? Good thing we have till 2050. But no, thank you all for the effort. We know that these things take time. It can't happen overnight. There's so many things that have to happen, especially money to pay for it. But all the work that goes into it ahead of time is essential in getting all these projects done. And we know eventually they'll happen. It's just a matter of when. And I know you guys are working hard to get it done. So we appreciate it. We thank you. And keep up the good work. I guess we'll be back again next year, right? Okay. No other questions then, Bill?
Sure.
Good? All right. Next is a proposal from Michael Baker for the Carter Improvement Plan.
So Eric talked about the Route 611 corridor improvement plan, and this is the next step. As council knows, and we jokingly on the staff level joke that we're studied out. We're done with studies, studying studies. So we're moving on to the next step. 611 is a PennDOT road. So if you're going to chase and apply for construction funding, you have to go through the PennDOT process. So they did a conceptual study with Michael Baker that was released in 2014, 2016. And it was a conceptual study, and it showed 611 being widened to 6 or 7 lanes. Conceptual study. Now this is the next step before you start chasing down and doing actually implementation and construction. So this Route 611 corridor improvement plan, it will, as Eric went on, I don't talk like an engineer, but it will show us everything. We've talked about a pedestrian bridge over 611. It will look at that. What is the best location for it? What should it look like? What should the design be? So when this plan is done, and it will take 2 years to do, we can start going to different phases of construction, chasing down grant funding and funding to phase in the improvements of 611 while we wait for the full base to come on redevelopment. And we will have a committee formed early next year, It'll be PennDOT, SEPTA, Matt from the Planning Commission, the Delaware Valley Regional Planning Commission. Everything's going to be looked at. Should it be sidewalks? Should there be roundabouts? Should it be 6 or 7 lanes? Should it be 6 or 7 lanes in certain sections? And the area that we're talking about is 611 from Blair Mill to County Line. That's the corridor of 611 that we're talking about. So it will be a 2-year process, a 2-year study, but the outcome will be no more studies. The outcome will be a plan that we either ourselves, PennDOT, future developers implement. So it's going to, again, take 2 years to do, and the price of the plan will be split over 2 years, and the full cost of doing the plan is done by grants. So it will not be on the backs of the taxpayers of Horsham or our budget. So the full amount is we have gotten grant money for.
Very good. Without any questions, would there be a motion?
I move to authorize the Michael Baker International Incorporated proposal dated November 17, 2023, in the amount of $692,700 for the Route 611 Corridor Improvement Plan.
Second.
Moved in second, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. Next is a resolution authorizing condemnation of certain properties along the Horsham Road Limecombe Pike intersection. Mary, do you want to explain that, or Bill? Which one do you want to take?
I think it's probably best if I start, but Bill can supplement me as he wants. As you know, Eric Frary and Bill have been working for the past couple of years on the design of the Horsham and Limekiln Road intersection improvement. We're at a point now where there's been a lot of negotiations with property owners about the easements necessary to accomplish that project. And now we're at a point where we have to start looking at more formal acquisition methods. And this doesn't mean it necessarily has to be hostile. This condemnation resolution will authorize you to go to condemnation, but it also does some things that can be beneficial to the property owners as well. If we have to take fee simple acquisition, which we do in a number of cases, the property owners are relieved from the need to pay real estate transfer tax if we do it in lieu of condemnation. But to qualify for in lieu of condemnation, the resolution has to be adopted prior to us reaching a settlement agreement. It is our hope that there is a list in the exhibits to the resolution. There are quite a number of properties listed. We do not think we will need to condemn many of them. Most of them, this will just give us the ability to sit down with the property owner and settle in terms where they're not going to have any tax liabilities, and let them know we're serious. It's time now. It's time to sit and talk. So we're asking for authorization or for your adoption of this resolution authorizing condemnation of several properties, some of them in fee simple, portions of it in fee simple. Some of them are temporary construction easements and some of them are drainage easements. And the different properties are distinguished by those categories in the resolution.
Will you have anything to add?
Just that, we, as council knows, we started this process of this intersection improvement in January of 2016, and reaching out to the property owners at that time in 2016, and have been in communication with all of them, throughout that time, and we still are. So, I owe people visits back. I owe some phone calls back. I owe a couple people asked me just to, put stuff down on Township letterhead, simple things. Are you going to change my light post? What's going to happen to my light post? What's going to happen to my mailbox? Simple stuff like that. So everything's continuing on. As Mary explained, this, we're getting close to having to wrap up. And I say that that's not weeks away, but we want to go out to bid next fall. And in order to do that, PennDOT requires us to have settled with all the property owners. So we want to all you're doing tonight is giving the staff the authority that if, and my hope is that we don't have to on any, that if we have to, this resolution gives the staff the authority to move forward with condemnation if we have to. I'm not planning on it. I don't want to, but it gives us that authority to do that if we have to keep the project moving forward and on schedule. So that's about it.
Have any questions? Not, do we have a motion? Oh, you have a question. All right.
You are on that list, yes.
Yes, I am. My name is Jason Glemser, 1141 Horsham Road, Glemser Brothers, one of the properties to be condemned. And to be quite honest, not many people have been in contact with me. So I tried calling Bill today, and his mailbox was full. I mean...
I did speak with your attorney today.
Yeah, but I should at least... I didn't even know about this meeting until it came on Facebook on a 4-day weekend for most people before Thanksgiving weekend, and thank goodness I followed a township on Facebook and saw the agenda of condemnation on here. I think I would at least do the respect of getting in touch with me and saying, Jason, this is coming. The last conversation I had with Bill was on Labor Day, and we talked about a timeline, and he said he would come to me because he knows the importance of a timeline.
I don't want to hijack your public comment. You'll have time to do that. But I just want you to understand, the adoption of this resolution doesn't mean that the condemnation of your property is going to happen soon. It's not like council's going to adopt the resolution tonight and we're going to condemn within the next week. The township's still very, very interested in working with you, helping you to find a place to relocate to, and trying to amicably resolve this. We understand that this is a difficult situation for you.
I don't think you do. So, no, you are hijacking me right now. Okay? See, my paycheck only comes when my doors go up and down. All right? I'm not guaranteed a paycheck like someone who works for the township. I was in government, in the military for 25 years, so I know what it's like to have a guaranteed paycheck, to have days off, to have holidays. I don't have holidays. I don't have days off. If I do, I don't get paid. Okay? So I am going to talk. So I really don't understand how elected leaders can treat a community member, a business. So over 50 years, we've been in this township. 50 years. There's never been a date or a conversation with anyone on when this project would start and how that relates to us moving. This has been going on since 2016. It has. But it's always been out there. The one date, it was supposed to be by 2020 to be done. And that came and went. And now, I have to be here for council to vote on condemnation of our property is mind-blowing to me. No one from the township even had the common respect to contact me about this vote. The supervisor or anyone on his behalf of the township. I found it on Facebook, as I already said. Is that how we treat a business that has been here for over 50 years for a project? Then everyone I talk to in this part of Horsham Township has no idea why it's even happening. I crossed the road at 6:15 with 4 cars at the intersection. 4 cars. Let's talk about the people behind the business. So my father, Larry, and my uncle, who died in the last 2 years, that's Jimmy's son, Gregory right there, started this business in 1967 and then continued in 1968 when my uncle came home from Vietnam and my dad in the Navy, spending time overseas as well. Who, by the way, my uncle was awarded Distinguished Service Cross, the second highest military decoration behind the Medal of Honor. These were both great men who affected my life. Larry, who most of you know, because he was the outgoing one, served in the Navy, Pennsylvania National Guard, right here at Willow Grove, for over 30 years, and was also a founding member of the Horsham Lions Club. Myself, although I didn't go to school in Horsham, I grew up here at that shop. We said how things have changed. I could ride my dirt bike from Montgomery Township down to the shop to go to work. I was chased by Larry Hughes on my dirt bike, Jim Van Sende, all these people who've gone before us here and know me very well. I served in the military for 25 years, numerous times overseas. And this is how we get treated. I never asked for special treatment. Never. But I think we've earned some respect. You would think with that service to our nation and community, that respect would be given to our families. A family's business that served went through the 70s gas crisis, some gas problems that we have up there that were no fault of our own, but we stayed in business. Up and down economies over the past decades. Made it through COVID with no federal money, no PPP, no anything. We stayed open and made it through and didn't take a dime from the taxpayers for anything. A business that has third-generation customers, 3 generations. I know their grandfathers. A business where the customers are almost like family. Yet here we are, being threatened to lose our livelihood due to traffic that will never get better. A problem this council has to take some responsibility for by continually giving variances for some of this land development going on. I mean, look at the sign behind you. There's a Holy Bible, a plow, and a farm. Is any of that left here? We know the Bible's not in school. All the farmers are gone. You know, I mean, one of them is a farmer's house you want to take. I remember when there was only a single a strand of wire going across the road, and it would sway back and forth. And this was the boonies. This traffic problem, if there is one, is only during an hour in the morning and an hour at night. All the people who live there, to them, it's no problem. I believe it was a $700,000 2-year traffic study go on, yet no one talked to the community people who live there. I mean, I could tell you about all the accidents and everything that goes on there. When's the problem? And most of the time, it's not the intersection, it's the people on their phone. I walk across the street every day. I mean, the perception, County Line Road, we talked about that. Everyone thought County Line was going to be 4 lanes from Montgomeryville down to County Line in Hatboro. But because the perception is because a politician's family member lives along that road, that was squashed. Whether that's real or not, I don't know. Most of our customers can't believe this is even happening. And I feel I have no recourse. How would any of you feel if I came and took your home? This is worse than that. Because this business provides me and my family and the people that work for me their homes. We're not just dots on these proposals that they make who get paid more money to contract than they want to give me for my business. I know none of you would stop this project, but how about we talk about working with the business? What if it does take me longer? What if it does? Bill knows where I want to move to, and these are people, old school people, who don't do things the normal way. Would it be worth waiting a year, 2 years, so someone could stay in the community of Prospectville, who our shop used to be the Prospectville post office, A&J Williams store right there, whose granddaughter came to see the picture we have of the shop with her parents in the back blurred out before Arco bought the property, knocked it down, and built the shop there. To keep us in Prospectville, which is doable, it just may take time. What greater gesture would there be than taking care of our people? Our legacy, what we leave, isn't about things we build. Rust, decay, and everything takes hold. It's about the people. On the sweatshirt that we have, one side has 26 grandkids. That's what those stars represent, and 4 on the other. That's just from 2 men. That's a legacy. You are my local government and represent me as well. Although I don't live in this township, I feel like I do. I probably spend more hours here than I do in my own township. My wife would attest to that. No local resident has ever said to me, I can't wait till you are gone so they can do this intersection. To move this business is not an easy task. It's not me just moving my equipment. The state has to come in, and now to be an inspection state emissions shop, I have to get certified. That takes time. I can't have 2 licenses at 2 different shops. I have to shut one down and open another. And it's a process. I could go on, but I think you understand how I feel. But I do feel like I speak on deaf ears. That for whatever reason, this is the only solution you can come up with. And my family business is just a speed bump to what some would call progress. Truth be told, I didn't want to come back here. I lived in North Carolina, retiring. You know I'm not all polished, but I'm educated. I have a master's degree, and I thought I should go on and do better things. It was my dad and uncle and my wife's family, who Cedar Hill Road, who I pumped her father's gas before I even knew her, brought us back to here for a job that I didn't want to do, but something I've grown to love, mostly because of the people. And realizing, although I've said, I've done multiple deployments overseas, late hours in the military, being in government work, it's probably the hardest job I ever done as a small business owner. My father and uncle are gone. But I'm going to keep their legacy going. I'm proud of our business. Proud of them, what they poured into me. We want to keep this area our home for our business. But it's looking like that may not be the case. Thank you.
Do you have anything to add?
Sure. Jason, I will be in contact with you, and we will negotiate with you. We've all known yourself and your father and your uncle for decades, and it's I think I've said it to you, one of the hardest jobs, if not the hardest job, and in my opinion, it is the hardest job, is this process of having to take property for future improvements. It's the hardest, and we do respect you, and we will work with you, and we will negotiate with you, and we will do everything we can to help you. Again, as I said, as Mary said, this tonight is not condemning your property. This resolution is not condemning your property. It's giving the staff the authority to enter the condemnation process if we have to. Our goal is to negotiate with you. Our goal is to work with you. Our goal is to settle with you. So again, the resolution tonight is not condemning your property. It's just giving the staff the authority to condemn if we have to. But I hope and the goal is not to condemn, but to work with you.
Hey, do we have a motion? If I can just say one thing. I'm a veteran myself. I know the challenges that you face after military service, and I feel for you. I think we should work we need to improve the community, but we also need to make sure that our residents are heard, and I think we need to make sure that veterans who try to have a life after military service can continue to do so and be active members of our community. So I appreciate you coming tonight. Okay, with that, anything else? Do we have a motion?
I move to approve the resolution as proposed, authorizing the condemnation of certain properties for right-of-way acquisition for the Horsham Road and Limecombe Pike intersection improvement project.
Been moved in second. This is a roll call vote. Bill?
Mr. Shargi, how do you vote?
Aye.
Ms. Harmon, how do you vote?
Aye.
Mr. Wade, how do you vote?
Nay.
Mr. Whiteside, how do you vote?
I vote aye.
Mr. McCouch, how do you vote?
Aye.
Motion passes 4-1.
All right, next is a zoning hearing board application.
This zoning hearing board application is for 250 Gibraltar Road. Many of us in town refer to it as the Toll Brothers Building at Gibraltar and Drescher. And they are going to a redevelopment, and they first need to stop at the zoning hearing board, and they are here with their application tonight and to go over it with you and tell us what variances they need.
Good evening, Kristen Pianzio from Hamburg, Rubin, Mullen, Maxwell, and Lupin. I'm here with Justin Giannotti from Dynamic Engineering. Bruce and Adam Goodman are here as well. We're here to talk about what everybody knows is the Toll Brothers property. This is 17 and a half acres fronts 3 streets, which is really the bane of the zoning code and the reason why we have to go to the zoning hearing board. We have frontage along Gibraltar, Drescher, and New Road. This is the plan that's in front of you. There are renderings, I think, that might be helpful.
The color ones.
Yes, yes, please. So this first slide is the proposed reconfiguration and redevelopment of this property. If you could go to the next slide, and I might have you toggle back. The next slide shows you, this is the existing features. This is a very odd-shaped building. It's old, it's tired, it's worn. It doesn't fit with the proposed uses in the BPD district, which allows for what we call flex space, assembly, light industrial, office, administration, accessory storage, things of that nature. You can see there's a lot of parking along the frontage of Drescher. There's parking really around all sides of the building, but the bulk of it is in the front and of Drescher and then along the back side. So if you could go back to the slide before it. The idea is to raise this building and construct in its stead 2 buildings. We've met with staff. My notes go back to the year 2020 when we first started talking about this property and its potential redevelopment. It's been vacant for a very long time. And we had a problem with loading and unloading. In fact, our original proposal had it along Gibraltar, and staff highlighted that that wasn't a great idea or a good look. We're trying to come up with a development that has a good look on all 3 sides. Because of the street frontages, that is quite the task. So we have on the left a building which is 119,000 and change. It has loading docks in the interior. That cutout is our way of putting the loading docks on the inside of the property, not only buffering it from an aesthetic point of view for passersby, but also from a noise component for the neighbors. We understand we have neighbors on New Road. There is a significant buffer along New Road, which we propose to keep. The building on the right side is 118,000 and change. It does have loading up against the side there, but there is parking in the center. We've reduced the impervious coverage, as you can tell, along the exterior, hugging the parking close to the building and leaving space for landscaping along all the frontages. If you could go to the next slide. So the use, if you could scroll down, Bill. One more, please. So this is our rendering. We wanted to give you some views from the different angles. This is at the intersection of Drescher and Gibraltar. This is the proposed frontage, a modern building. It's 1 story. One of the reasons why we have to go to the zoning hearing board is that you're only allowed to have a flat roof if it's 3 stories tall. We understand the intent of that is so that people aren't looking at the rooftop of the building. What we've done is added a parapet around the entire exterior. So all the roof equipment, the unsightliness of a rooftop is hidden with the parapet. There is an angle of about 2% for drainage. So we were thinking it wasn't exactly flat, but it has a flat appearance. So that's one of the variances that we've requested. Scroll down, please. This is the existing view in its stead. Next one. So this is the first driveway up closer to the building that faces the intersection of Drescher and Gibraltar. This has the modern look. You can see the different components and architectural features along the building, giving it some interest instead of just a big box. It has the signature Goodman modern look and finishes. Of course, it'll be done with hardscaping and landscaping. That will make it very attractive. This is the first driveway entrance that is along Gibraltar. The one closest to Drescher is a right-in, right-out. We have 3. The one in the front is a right-in, right-out only. Next slide, please. This is the view today. Next slide. Now we're moving between the 2 buildings. This is what's proposed. This is a full access driveway. This is where deliveries will be made and be able to traverse in between the buildings. Next slide, please. This is a view of the existing condition. Next slide. Oh, is that the end? Oh, okay. There is another driveway up on the other side, which is also full access. So we're going to the zoning hearing board for, our loading spaces are smaller than what your code requires. Your code requires 14 by 65. It's an archaic size. The sizes of the trucks are about 8.5 feet wide. It allows we're proposing 13 foot wide by 55, which is plenty of space for 4.5 feet between each truck. The next variance is for the flat roof with a building of 1 story instead of 3. We would commit to that architectural parapet around the edges to hide the rooftop equipment. Impervious coverage limitation is 65%. We're at 68.5. That extra 3.5 we can mitigate during the land development process. As you know, this is the first step. If we get past the zoning hearing board, we'll have to do fully engineered plans. Justin's job is to mitigate the stormwater management. There is no stormwater management on this property today. It sheet flows out into the street and drops into the storm sewer that exists. So we have an opportunity to catch and retain stormwater management or stormwater that doesn't exist today, and we can oversize it as necessary to deal with that extra 3.5%. Next, we have a variance we have parking in the front. The zoning code says you can't have parking between the sidewalk of a street and a building. We already have it along Drescher where that's getting smaller, so that's existing nonconformity, that's getting better. The zoning officer opined that we don't need relief for that. She also thinks the zoning hearing board can interpret section 217, which gives it the authority to do so, to render the same opinion for the parking that exists along Gibraltar and New. Technically, there's no sidewalk on both of those frontages, so the code is parking between a sidewalk and a building. So we've asked in the alternative a variance in the event they don't feel the way that she does. And lastly, there is a requirement that a building permit would be obtained within 6 months. We have to go through the land development process. Obviously, an MPDES permit, we know that will take more than 6 months, so we've asked for 2 years. So I know in the discussions with staff, there is a desire that during the land development process, we put sidewalks in where they don't belong, or where they don't exist today. Where they don't belong is New Road, because we have some problems there. Actually, I did want to bring that up. Along New Road, there's right-of-way there. There's enough room to put them in. But I want to highlight that there's an existing swale that is there. There's underground utilities. There's utility poles. And there's a very significant berm that we do not want to touch. So we feel confident, and I turn to Justin to make this happen, that during the land development process, we can meander around those things. We may have to put low walls in certain spots. It will be within the right-of-way. Technically, it's your road. So I just wanted to highlight that we think that we can achieve the sidewalks, but we may have to finagle around some of those obstacles. That's all. So we're looking for a neutral position by council.
I think that we should make the sidewalks an issue before we go neutral.
Before what?
Before we go neutral, if we go neutral, I think that sidewalks should be something that should be part of our process going to the zoning hearing board. I'd rather get it resolved now than later.
Okay.
As long as you're willing to do it, I think we should just make it part of the.
Yeah, with the caveat that we may need, what were they, 2-foot walls maybe here and there, Justin?
Correct. So along New Road as it is today, it comes off the side of the road. She flows off the side of the road to a swale and goes up to a berm. So to put a sidewalk along New Road is going to require us to have it's ADA accessible, so it's got to be flat, and then we're going to have to cut into that berm to some extent. So that may require some retaining walls within the right-of-way in order for us to construct that walkway. So to the so to the extent that we're permitted to have retaining walls within the right-of-way of a township road.
Mayor, I think you could work out the wording for that.
Yeah, I'm just wondering if we don't want to keep it simple at this point before we go into land development.
Yes.
Before we go into land development, and just say that you'll install sidewalks, except that along New Road, there will be a meandering path, and how that gets accomplished, we can deal with at land development.
That's fine.
And Gibraltar as well.
Gibraltar, we don't have the same problem. We don't have
But you'll still make it part of the.
Yes, we can do the sidewalks more easily on Gibraltar. We don't have the same
Make it
constraints.
all part of the same.
Right. When she was talking, just a couple of other
Yeah, good.
possible conditions. Keep to keep the buffer along New Road and possibly even supplement it, because certainly there's a buffer there. It could probably, if our landscape architect thinks, be enhanced by some lower plantings and shrubs for visibility. Maybe a limit on the number of loading docks. You're far enough along now where you have an idea of how many loading docks you want to install. And I think council would like to marry itself to the plan if it's not going to oppose it.
You're saying you're fine with what's on the plan, but you want to limit us to that number?
Yeah.
Okay,
But you're showing 27?
yes.
Like 28 or 30 to allow flexibility during land development, or?
You guys okay with that?
30 max.
I think, based on Ms. Pianazzio's presentation, I think you probably are liking the concept of having the loading areas internal to the site, and I think that should probably be married to your,
That'd be a good idea, just to be on the safe side. You're okay with that, right? You're not going to change your design?
No, I mean, the zoning hearing board always ties us to the plans and exhibits presented at the hearing, so that goes without saying.
and just one more, and I was looking at my notes from one of the many meetings that we had at the staff level, and I think there should be some kind of indication of a limit on the amount of warehousing versus light assembly and light manufacturing. At the last meeting we had, you indicated that you thought 2/3 like light assembly, light manufacturing, 1/3 warehouse was an appropriate.
I think you worked it into the ordinance language directly, that over 15 acres, no more than 80% of the floor area of the site may be utilized for manufacturing and assembly. Warehousing shall be limited to the storage of component materials or products associated with the light manufacturing and assembly on the site.
That would probably work to keep so it doesn't turn into a distribution center.
Right.
And then the staff was never shy about saying this can't turn into a distribution center. We don't want that kind of truck traffic on the township roads, and I think the ordinance language will work.
Yeah.
So so just to recap,
I just wanted to ask Eric, the loading dock, the loading spaces, your engineering wise, you're pretty good with that?
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah, 3%, extra 3.5%?
Absolutely, because they're going to do stormwater management where that doesn't exist today. So this will actually be an improvement to the stormwater in the area.
Want to double check those two items. Hey, Mayor.
so what pops out as conditions are like keeping and possibly supplementing the buffer along New Road, limiting the number of loading docks to 30 max, keep the loading area internal on the site, install sidewalks on the adjacent roadways, except that along New Road, it will be a meandering path as opposed to a traditional sidewalk because of existing features, and that's it.
Guys good with that?
Acceptable, yes, thank you.
And maybe just one more to consider, and I forget the term that Kristen used for the flat roof, but the architecture, I'm not an
Parapet.
architect, but
Parapet?
to make it maybe not look like so much like a flat roof, but also to hide all the units on it, whatever term you used.
Parapet.
Yes, that is also a condition.
I'm not sure I know what a parapet is actually, but that'll be a condition.
Nice word. It's the word of the day. Okay, so it looks like we'll go neutral. Okay, good luck.
Great, thank you.
I'll get that
Nice to
letter
see
to
you.
you, Kristen.
Thanks, Mary.
Okay, next is a request for waiver of land development for White Marsh.
So White Marsh Cemetery, as everybody knows, I think everyone knows, their maintenance yard, facility, building is across the street on Horsham Road from Wayside Chapel. Many of us have seen them, the tractors and the mowers and the trucks going back and forth from their maintenance facility onto the cemetery property. And what White Marsh would like to do is construct a new maintenance building on the cemetery property. It's in a maintenance area in the center of the property. We'll show maps, and Rob and Lauren, if you both want to come up to the table. And in order to construct the maintenance building, they're requesting tonight a waiver from the land development ordinance. And I will let turn it over to Rob and Lauren to go over the plan and the request. Whoops, wrong one. What do you want, the aerial up first?
Yeah, that would be best.
Okay, hold on. Get that out of the way. There we go.
Rob Cunningham with Holmes Cunningham Engineering. I'm with Lauren
Scudieri,
Scudieri.
White Marsh Memorial Park General Manager.
So we've highlighted the area where White Marsh would like to move their maintenance building. It would be a 4,000 square foot steel building. It is an area that they use for vault storage and stone storage currently. It would continue to be used for those things, and then moving the maintenance shop there as well. With all the presentation on safety and transportation, this is one of those things. You have a business which operates on two sides of a major road, traversing it all day long. Obviously, it's just smart to consolidate those facilities. So I believe Lauren and her team had presented this to staff a ways back. After that meeting, it was determined that this would be the best location. It's an area we already use. Some buffered from all the surrounding properties. So it would be no change in their operations, no change in traffic. We would do bring some utilities to this area to install the maintenance building, but it's a relatively simple project. Along with this, we had submitted an engineered plan that was reviewed by Eric's office. We are proposing some stormwater management to mitigate our changes. Other than that, there would be no change to the buffer that exists today, and it's a relatively simple project. Of the projects that I work on, this is about as simple as they come.
It sounds pretty simple. Bill, any comments?
Yeah, for the most part, it is pretty simple. As Rob already said, that they would one condition would be the stormwater management to the satisfaction of the township engineer. Another condition would be the landscaping. So where they're putting it now, most of us walk through, run through, drive through White Marsh Cemetery. But you know where they keep the vaults, the concrete vaults for the graves. It is right now very well landscaped with mature trees. What we would want something built into that is that is maintained for years to come. That landscaping buffer, if those trees die, if there's a little opening, and we talked about this at the staff meeting, that we want this building hidden, as it will be, but trees die of old age. So we want a landscaping plan that fills in any openings, but also as trees die in the future, that they are replaced. So the building's hidden. We've also discussed with them their property along Horsham Road, as we were, is part of the right-of-way acquisition, and they have offered their right-of-way free of charge to the township as a condition, also for the as a condition of the waiver. So it's not much frontage that we have
And
like.
there's two different parcels. So White Marsh Memorial Park had already signed away the right-of-way on the cemetery side. This would be the drive now across the street where the shop is, which is not much frontage on.
Yeah, if you recall, when they did Phase 2 or Phase 3 at the Mausoleum, they had a waiver of land development, and one of the conditions was to dedicate the right-of-way on Horsham Road on the cemetery side. So now this would be dedicating the right-of-way in front of their maintenance property.
Fair trade-off. Everybody
So-
okay? Then, yes, dear.
Ms. Walker, I would envision that we would do your right-of-way agreements right now and get them signed concurrently with the adoption of the waiver resolution instead of making it a condition. Is that, and that works with Eric? Okay. So we'll get those to you, with the waiver resolution. We'll send it to you ahead of time to review, so you'll have all the documents at once.
Obviously, White Marsh being part of a corporation, there'll be other people that need to review it and sign off, but I'll get that done as timely as possible.
Okay, so, and as soon as we do that, then we'll do the waiver resolution.
Perfect.
Great.
I just have a question. It's more curiosity than anything.
Sure.
If you don't use that side of the road for your maintenance equipment, et cetera, what are you going to do with that property?
There is talk of transfer of ownership or possibly selling of the property, possibly to some of our neighbors. So I can state that, Tori was supposed to be here this evening, Tori Rose from Holidays. There is large interest in him accumulating that property for his business as well in regards to the Horsham Road widening project.
Well, good, Bill? Yes, sir. All right. Good luck.
Thank you.
Thank you. Now, the item we all look forward to. Want to review the budget again, Bill?
We are.
Yay.
We are. It's shorter than your first time, as normal. So, our 2024 proposed budget is at $21,478,267, and it's proposed a total real estate tax at 2.23 mils, and the budget is balanced. That includes a tax increase. It also includes leaving 5 full-time positions vacant, and also transferring money from our capital reserves to the general fund. This is sort of a breakdown of a person's money of where to the school district, to the county, and to the township. I would say that the school district is current with the budget that they passed in July. The township is what we are proposing. And then we don't have the exact figures from the county for the county and the community college. They are having a tax increase also. So those numbers will change on when we get those numbers. But these charts that we share with everybody, we compare ourselves to many communities around us. Then the community names are to the left. Underneath the names of their 2020 census population. And then the gold is their everyone but Horsham. We're putting our 2024 tax millage rate up that is proposed. Everyone else is 2023. And we know that many, not all, but many of those communities are having tax increases for 2024. And then also, as you can see, Horsham is the largest in square miles. Our budget is a complicated budget. There's a lot going on. There's a lot of moving parts. The general fund is what the real estate tax funds, as well as our earned income tax. The other funds that we use to accomplish projects, the capital, the park improvement, the state aid, the street light, the outfall fund, those are all restricted funds. No real estate taxes go into any of those funds. And most of the projects you hear us talk about most of the time, all those funds, those restricted funds, those are the funds that are paying for capital improvement projects to get done in town. The general fund is your day-to-day, is your overhead, is your staff, salaries, benefits, our police, our full police budget is through the general fund, fire company, parks, trails, all through the general fund. So this is what our 2.23 mils look like. So in 2024, an average home in Horsham is 183,001. So what does that mean? The average property owner will pay $408.09 on an annual basis to the township. And then you can see in the general that $153.72, as I said, goes primarily to the day-to-day operations, the police, the fire company, and parks and trails. Library is $86.01. The fire, we have a separate fire tax, but the fire company usually is over on that, so our general fund supplements the fire company. As you know, they are transitioning from a full volunteer company to a career firefighting company. But fire is $109.80, and parks is $58.56. Nothing's changing with the earned income tax rate at 1%. The local services tax rate's at $52. The hydrant tax rate is 0.03 mils, and the street light assessment is 59 cents a foot. This is our 2024 revenue. The gold, the yellow, is at 50.43% of our revenue. Just a few years ago, that used to be 60%. What has our biggest factor that has affected us is the pandemic and the change in the office parks. So as you know, Horsham's livelihood is for the office parks, and they've been hit very hard. All you got to do is drive through them any day, and there's a lot of black asphalt without any cars or vehicles there. So some companies have closed, some companies have left Horsham, some companies have gone to permanent work at home, some companies have done hybrid, have downsized their footprints, all affecting our revenue, our earned income tax and local services tax, which is, again, was 60% of our budget. And then you can see the other breakdowns. We've been talking about revenue for about 6 to 8 years now in our budgets and budget messages that we've been watching things closely, coming up with plans. We did not know before 2014 and 2016 that we were going to be dealing with PFAS, the contamination from the base. We thought the base would be redeveloped or being redeveloped by now, and that revenue source would be coming into the township. That did not happen. We did not plan on a global pandemic that has devastated our office parks. We had a plan before that in between PFAS and the pandemic where we were doing small incremental tax increases, and the pandemic took that plan away from us. So we're in a different financial era, and it is here. This is our millage history. As you can see, the last, the 0.2 and 0.3 and 0.48, they weren't huge increases back in 2019 through 2023. Our last, if you want to say major tax increase, as you can see by the chart, was 1989, which was a 2.8 mil increase. Again, this is a 0.75 mil increase, and we are continuing to work at the budget, and hopefully maybe we can have some good news with revenue over the next few weeks and lower that 0.75 down if we possibly can. Where does that put us? Again, these communities in the blue, that is their 2023 tax rates, many but not all going up, as our school district did, as our county's going up. They're facing the same things we're facing. But Horsham, even at 2.23, is one of the lowest tax communities in eastern Montgomery County. So we do try hard, and to watch every penny, not dollar, but every penny. And here's another chart just showing that again. Horsham has 26,645 people. We have 85 full-time people, 41 police officers, 45, or now it's 40 because we have a vacant officer position at the current time because of the budget. But 40 police officers, 45 staff, so total of 85. But you look at some of the other communities and their populations and staff that they have. So we're close to some, but there are some, Upper Moreland, 140 people, Upper Dublin, 128 full-time staff, Whippane, 92. So we are conservative. I applaud our staff and what we're able to do, and we do a whole lot more with less. And they always amaze me of what we are able to accomplish in Horsham. Some of these projects, again, almost all of them, I'm looking through them right now, but almost all of them are from different funds. These are not, even if you did away with these projects, they're not going to affect the tax increase. You would have to lay off half of our police officers to have the revenue made up. So, but new roof and siding on the Horsham Township Library, that does not come from the general fund, but that's being funded by a different fund. And those funds also, they're restricted funds, so you can't transfer money from those funds into the general fund, except for the capital reserve fund, and we are doing that. Forrester Road and Whetstone Road basin retrofits, Drescher Road stream bank restoration, engineering and grant applications we're going to be doing for the extension of the power line trail out to Lower State Road. We will be wrapping up our comprehensive plan, so we've been working on that for 2 years. Hopefully by summer, council will have it in front of them for review and consideration. We have a headwall pipe project in the Hideaway Hills development that has to be replaced. Maple Park improvements, Route 611 and Moreland Avenue intersection improvements, that's all grant money. Traffic signals at Blair Mill Road, that's a private developer who's no longer in the room, but it's Goodman Properties. That intersection, so everyone remembers, that is when Goodman Properties built the Chick-fil-A, the Wawa, and the Chase Bank on Welsh Road, a PennDOT-owned road. PennDOT required Goodman Properties to put a signal in on Blair Mill Road at the shopping center driveways as part of their highway occupancy permit. So they just poured the concrete footers for the arm mast, and that should be hopefully going in early next year. Replacement of traffic signals at Drescher Road, Sawmill Lane, and New Road. That is from our Act 209 fund, so that is a restricted fund. Additional new park signs, that is also coming from the Park Improvement Fund. Audio-visual upgrade to the community center, that's coming also from a different fund and not the general fund. The tree giveaway program comes from a different fund, and the new website design, that does come from the general fund, but most of that's covered by the website company contract that we have every 4 or 5 years. They do a whole new website design for us at no cost to the township. So this will be a fundraiser. The Mary Dare Courtyard at the library is in very, very early stages, and meaning there's a little ad hoc committee, the Friends of the Horsham Library, the Library Board of Directors, and the Horsham Rotary Club are looking at these, but it'll probably be a fundraising effort by those organizations to raise money to do this project. Eric already talked to you about the Phase 3 engineering currently going on for Blair Mill Road, another grant-funded project. Horsham Road and Limekiln Pike, complete the intersection right-of-way acquisition, final engineering and bidding is what we're looking for in 2024. Again, most of that project, there is some township funding because we have a lot of grants for that project, but we have to have matching funds for a couple state grants. This is our 2024 paving project. So these are all the roads. I won't go read them through. They're in the budget and on our website, but these are the roads that are all being paved next year. About 3.5 miles of roads. Economic development, we're still doing Restaurant Week. We're going to continue to advertising and marketing the township on a national wide basis. Host the State of Horsham Luncheon, the Business Park Shuttle Bus Program, HOPS, and we do get major financial contributions from the office park owners and major employers to help cover that cost. Demolition of Adams Pit Stop, that's at Route 611 and Blair Mill Road. And that'll also be part of Phase 3 for Blair Mill Road. Beautification project at 298 Welsh Road, and getting a national site selector consultant on board to bring some major corporations to Horsham to help us ultimately with our revenue issue and vacancy in the office parks. Some of the capital purchase that we'll be doing is finishing up the comprehensive plan. We decreased from 4 police vehicles to 2 police vehicles. The fire marshal vehicle is from a different fund. The fire marshal also applied for a grant to fund the vehicle fully. We haven't heard from the state if we're getting that grant. Public Works to replace 1 small dump truck, to replace a large dump truck. The large dump truck comes from a different fund and not the general fund. The painting exterior of the Public Works facility, that does not come from the general fund either. Upgrade, we already talked about the community center, visual equipment, we talked about the library, the solar energy project. So that's also coming from a different fund, and that project will all be completed by the end of next year, and that will put solar on all of our buildings that we own. We talked about the community signs, stormwater MS4 projects, and this is our budget timeline. That tonight is the 27th, and then December 13th we'll review the budget again. Hopefully, no guarantees, but hopefully if we see some improvements in our revenue stream, that we might be able to lower down the 0.75 mils to a lower number. Keep our fingers crossed. And just our budget summary that we do is, as Andy mentioned, we do the conservative budgeting practices, and we maintain our infrastructure. You know, a lot of communities around us in eastern Montgomery County, they defer maintenance, and whether it's buying vehicles, paving roads, inlets, storm pipes, they defer maintenance, and they never get themselves out of the hole. So they defer maintenance to offset what the township should be doing, and then they find themselves in a deeper hole financially. And we haven't done that. We maintain our infrastructure. We maintain healthy reserve funds. That also keeps our credit rating high with Moody's. We have a policy for our capital fund, our road fund, and our park fund with minimum balances. We are maintaining our high bond rating at AA1. We have a balanced budget, and we're maintaining the quality of life services to the residents, and we're keeping the township moving forward. And I won't read that. And so we're on track right now, and hopefully we have some good news with revenue, and we can lower the tax increase down a little bit. That's what we hope.
Next step is our resolution for accepting this budget.
No, it's just scheduling the public hearing.
I meant a hearing, I'm sorry.
Yes. Yep.
December 13th. We have a motion.
I move to adopt the resolution as proposed, establishing Wednesday, December 13th, 2023 at 7:45 p.m. in Horsham Township Building, 1025 Horsham Road, as a time and place for a public hearing on the proposed ordinance to increase the township's funding for general and police services by 0.75 mils in 2024.
Second.
Moved and seconded. This is a roll call vote.
Mr. Shargi, how do you vote?
Aye.
Ms. Harmon, how do you vote?
Aye.
Mr. Wade, how do you vote?
Aye.
Mr. Whiteside, how do you vote?
I vote aye.
And Mr. McCouch, how do you vote?
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously.
All right, so before I adjourn the meeting, just an announcement that we will be moving into executive session to discuss a matter of personnel. Have a good night, everyone. Meeting adjourned.